Hello and welcome everybody to the Twins Off Daily podcast brought to you by twinsdaily.com. How the heck are you, Twins territory? I'm Sweet Lou Hennessy and I'm gathered here with three of Twins Daily's finest. First, we got Mr. Gregory T. Masterson. What's going on, Greg?
Hello.
Well said. Well said. Next, we have Mr. Cody Schoenman. What's going on, Cody?
So I guess I'll talk more. Yes. So recently I've been listening to the Effectively Wild previews. They've been coming in almost every day. They've been great. Gleeman was on to talk about the Twins recently. And at the end of every segment, they ask, what constitutes success for your team? And then the beat writer or whoever will answer. And I think what would constitute success for this podcast is that if Nick's Wi-Fi doesn't destroy my Wi-Fi, and if we can actually get through it without me lagging out or, something even worse happening.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Well, you said it. We have the pride of Twins Daily, Mr. Nick Nelson here. What's going on, Nick? Thanks for joining us.
How's it going, fellas? Great to be back.
We are glad to have you, especially Greg with all his words that he's speaking right now. But we are really excited to have you, and we're excited to have everybody listening along. We've had a pretty good run here on the Twins Off Daily podcast recently. We've been having a lot of fun, and it's been getting some good buzz. So thank you very much for everybody who's been listening. Let's jump on in and let's talk about
tell your friends.
And, yes,
or maybe worse, tell your enemies.
Oh yes, yes. What do we say? We're your least favorite Twins podcast's least favorite Twins podcast. Okay, we're going to go with that. It's a little roundabout, but how about this? Before we get too far off track, let's talk about our walk-off question that we will be trying to answer at the end of today's episode. Today's question, we are recording this on Monday night. It is President's Day. Which president, U.S. president, real or fictional, do you think would be the best ball player and why? Ooh, there's a lot of guys that you could choose from here. It's a big baseball demographic, let's just say. Very old, very white for the most part. So there's some fun options though, and there's some fun fictional ones too. So we'll see what we can come up with. But right now, while we got everybody here, let's talk about our big inning topic, and that is with spring training now fully underway, the whole squad's there, everybody's in. There's still some questions that remain, and we want to talk about them. We want to talk about what's going on with this Twins club. So let's jump right on into it. Their most recent signing is Mr. Ty France, and it is Nick is really excited by this. He also, for our listening audience, Nick just came back from Jamaica. He is currently wearing his Rasta hat, and he's got like one Rasta braid, Yaman, and he is absolutely pumped to talk about Ty France. So Ty France, the Twins signed him to a $1 million non-guaranteed contract, major league contract. So if he does not make the club out of spring training, they just cut him loose, and it's kind of pretty low wattage move there. But knowing the Twins and some of these kind of cheap veteran signings that they've had in the last few years, I feel like they're already writing his name in pen into the 26-man roster coming out of spring training. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about some of the things that maybe scare us with this Ty France reservation. So Nick, do you want to start us off? Because I know that you've been kind of vocal about this online a little bit. So what were your initial reactions when they signed France?
I mean, I don't know if I was that vocal. I mean, I think I just tweeted basically, that's an uninspiring signing to address the biggest need on the roster. And yeah, I was pretty blown away by the reaction to that. There's a lot of big Ty France Bobos on Twitter, I guess. Yeah. More than happy to see it. I think, I think unless you're being really optimistic, I don't know what you're looking at as the grounds for thinking that he's going to improve enough to be an asset for the Twins. And, you look at a position in first base where Carlos Santana, the guy they're trying to replace here, was their only source of stability basically last year. Played 140 games overall. I think made 139 starts at first. No one else made 90 starts at any other position. So to go from that to my friend Giles, who I don't know if he's on Twitter anymore, he's on Blue Sky, but he called it a low risk, low reward signing. And that to me is a perfect way to describe it. There's not really any risk, but the risk is you just signed a bad player to fill your biggest need. You spent nothing on it. I think the contract says it all. Like nobody else was interested in signing this guy. We've seen some kind of.
Was it their biggest need?
I mean, I would say it was definitely. I don't think that they're just weak at first base. Everywhere else they look at least okay. It depends, I guess, on how you feel about Miranda and Julian and Willie Castro,
Sure.
the first baseman. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to me, like, I see all these kind of spring platitudes that are being shared here. He worked with Denny Hawking in the off season and he's simplifying his swing, which seems to be what everyone says when they struggle. And it's like, why did you unsimplify your swing to begin with? Because you weren't playing well. So,
right.
To me, he looks like a pretty unathletic guy who is just in straight decline at age 30. So I hope I'm wrong, but uninspired, I guess, is the best way to put it on my end.
Yeah, the 30-year-old portion of this is what kind of stands out to me. Do you think that the Twins, does this move say more about their faith that they can, get Ty France back to where he was a couple years ago when he was like an all-star borderline kind of caliber player? Or do you think it says more about the internal options that were currently pegged to play there? You have Jose Miranda. There's been a lot of talk about Ed Julian at first, but he's played all of one game there last year, right? And Jose Miranda played like 12 games there last year. Do you think it said more about their ability to kind of re-get that spark for France, or does it say more about their lack of faith in their current options?
Yeah, probably more about the current options and maybe not even necessarily a lack of faith, but a desire to like fire these guys up.
Yeah.
Bring in someone. I mean, I'm not going to say like Miranda's been like, not had his foot to the pedal or whatever, but he just hasn't been able to put it together for an extended stretch or a full season. So I think, bringing in Ty France and then talking about him in a way that just does not match up to the contract he got or anything like that. It all seems to me like, we're gonna hype this guy up. Hopefully it helps his confidence, and hopefully, guys like Miranda and Julian are seeing this and saying, okay, we really got to fight to get this first base job.
There we go. Cody, what do you think? Is there anything that should give the Twins fans, maybe some hope about this signing at this time, I guess?
I mean, I tend to agree with Nick mostly. I don't think there's much reason for optimism or like extreme optimism with France. But I think if you look at the current recent trend of the Twins, like when they fall apart at season's end, it's mostly because they don't have the depth necessary to survive through a season. I mean, that's what we saw in 2021, 2022, last season. Under the Baldelli Falvey administration, that's kind of been a trend. But when they can push past and make the postseason, it's because they have the veteran depth necessary to do that. So in 2023, there was guys like Solano. Say what you will about Gallo, but he did provide, value in April, and he did lead them to some wins. I mean, that's not nothing. I know, like, he wasn't good past that, but it's still not nothing. There's other guys too who played pretty, big roles in helping them survive the season, get through it. Kepler was great that year. I wouldn't call him depth, but he was actually better than he usually is. So if you look at their signings this offseason, it's it's Harrison Bader, it's Danny Colombe, it's Ty France. These are all guys. I know Lance has the lowest floor, but I think you can trust them as depth pieces to help you, push through a season, to, survive the time when it's August and you have Correa and Buxton hurt and you need to persevere through. So I think it was really smart for the front office to use their limited resources on depth pieces like these guys. I mean, Bader can be a fourth outfielder. He can back up Buxton. He can play in the corners as a platoon partner with Wallner and Larnach. Colombe adds the left-handed arm. France, he was horrible at defense last year. He had negative 12 outs above average. He was, not very good at the plate. I think he had like a mid-90s WRC plus, but he is, a higher. I know he said he has a low floor, but at the same time, he has a higher floor than I think guys like Junior Severino or Mike Ford or maybe even Mickey Gasper. I mean, we don't really know much about him at this point, but overall, I think it was wise for the front office to go down the depth option with the limited resources they have. I know France isn't very exciting. People got really riled up about him, but that could also just be a symptom of the team doing basically nothing until the end and people having strong emotions over a guy that you would, in most off seasons, not really, pay too much attention to, I'd say.
Sure. One thing that I kind of thought about with France, it's a low commitment, like we talked about, $1 million. That's peanuts, but there's kind of like the opportunity cost of like, what are they going to do if he has a really bad first month? Are they going to keep their faith in him like they've shown with some other veterans before? We should mention sometimes that pays off. Carlos Santana had a pretty rough April last year, at least the first 3-4 weeks of the season, but they kept at it, kept playing him. And like we said, he ended up being probably up there with their most productive player throughout the season last year. So I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out. What if France comes out to a really slow start? What if he goes through a 6-week slump in June? How are they going to address it then? So it'll be interesting to.
Well, and also looking back at 2023, I mean, it paid off with Kepler and Emilio Pagan. They ended up being really huge pieces, but then also Gallo. So it's like two ends of the coin. Yeah. We'll see. Probably going to end up more like Gallo, but there's a reason for hope, I guess.
You mean not really playing after July?
Yes, which could be a good thing, right?
It's kind of left out of the story a lot of times when we're talking about Joey Gallo. He actually didn't play all that much even though he was on the team. Nobody really took his place, and that's kind of, with Ty France, I think that if Ty France is not if he does have a bad April, he has a bad first 6 weeks, and he's not replaced by Jose Miranda or Edouard Julien or even Mickey Gasper or something like that, I don't know how much of the blame we get to put on Ty France at that point, because it's probably pretty likely that nobody took his place. I was expecting more France defense out of you, Robespierre, Cody. But I guess I will be the guy to defend Ty France, even though if you look it up last week, I brought up Ty France as a non-roster invite with a $2 million option if he makes the team. I said that, and then he got signed the next day to a $1 million option. And I explicitly said, that'd give me a headache. And guess what? It did give me a headache. However, I think that the reaction to Ty France has been a little bit overdone. I don't have huge hopes for him, but I also am willing to hear it out. He was not good last year at all and was kind of mediocre the year before. He was dealing with injury last year. He did start the season fairly well. And so I'm willing to hear it out. I obviously, I'm not excited by the fact that the Twins were the only team to even offer him a 1-year, $1 million contract that's not guaranteed. Like, what does that say about the other interest he's gotten? But still, I am okay with Ty France being in the mix. I don't have huge high hopes for him, but I also think that he could be like a 2-win player. And the Twins have kind of struggled to have a 2-win player at first base for a while now, like on a consistent basis. So I'm not against it. I don't think that he's going to be taking away a ton of at-bats. I'm not reading into how Rocco, I don't know. I've been joking that Rocco named him King of Minnesota with his comments over the last couple of days. I don't look into those at all. I think Nick brought up that they very well might just be him trying to support France and also trying to light a fire under Miranda and Julien.
Yeah.
I'm okay with him being in the mix. I don't have a ton of faith in Miranda and Julien to put together a huge year either. Or at least be consistent. And so another body is not something that I'm afraid of in that mix. And there are plate appearances to go around at first base, at DH. I personally think that Jose Miranda is a better player if he's not looked to be your everyday first baseman.
Yeah.
That's fair. Jose Miranda fits really well onto a team if he's playing 40 games at first base and 40 games at third base and 40 games at DH, and he's available off the bench when they need, sort of like a Donovan Solano with a little bit more power. I think that that's kind of where Jose Miranda is at his best usage. And obviously we don't know what we're getting out of Julien, but I don't know. I've decided that I'm going to be the biggest France defender. I'm gonna be striking against all the Francophobes.
You're gonna need to get his name down if you're gonna defend him.
But Greg, I have a counterpoint really quick. Did you see his number?
It's 13. That's half the reason that I want to support him.
It's so perfect.
For those of you who don't know, the last I don't know. I'm just going to go in order. The most recent players to wear 13. So we had last year was Manuel Margot. In 2023, it was Joey Gallo. In 2022, it was Trevor Larnach. In 2021, for one game, it was Travis Blankenhorn. For 2019 and 2020, it was Ari Adrianza. Good for him.
Yeah.
Before that, it was Jason Kubel trying to come back for one last chance. And I think before that, we go back all the way to Todd Walker and his ill-fated debut with the Twins in the 90s. It is a hilarious number. I wrote something at Twins Daily on it. I'm so excited to watch whatever happens with Ty France. Win or lose, we're boozing.
So leading up to the Ty France signing, Dan Hayes of The Athletic had a report that the Twins were maybe looking into some backup shortstop options, somebody like Paul DeJong, somebody like Luis Urias. I got to say, I feel better about Ty France than either of those options, or even going after some of the remaining middle infielders that would still be on the free agent market. I believe DeJong and Urias both signed for I think $1 million or something really similar. So somewhere in that ballpark. But Nick, how do you feel about that? Do you like France compared to those options, or would you have preferred that they looked at somebody who could back up shortstop still?
Yeah, I mean, they needed a bat. Like, I do think that there's validity to that and to the mindset of signing him on that basis. And I think maybe my complaints about the signing got like misconstrued, where a lot of people were like, oh, what else are they going to do at this stage? At this point of the offseason, I guess it's a fine move. Sure. Yeah, sure. I think my frustration was more like, this is a front office that prides itself so much on being creative and inventive. And it's like, you need a bat. Your offense collapsed last year. You've got all these question marks on offense, all these health question marks. And the best you can do at first base, a position where you can play almost anyone, is Ty France. Like, I think that was what frustrated me, is not being able to find a little more offensive upside at that position. They didn't need to trade for Tristan Casas, but I think there are a lot of other opportunities out there, and they didn't need to sign Pete Alonso, but get creative, and maybe they'll be proven right on this, and it'll be, their best heist yet. But I do think, yes, I do think they had to go get someone who gave them some kind of offensive upside, and France does do that.
Yeah. Can I ask you, would you prefer, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I guess there really isn't. I'm guessing there isn't a free agent that is below kind of the, I don't know, maybe would you have preferred, let's pretend that Paul Goldschmidt signed for $10 million, which is about what we've figured out that the Twins got for a budget late in the offseason, right? Would you have taken Paul Goldschmidt or who's I guess Carlos Santana?
Yeah.
Let's pretend that they both signed for $10 million. Would you have preferred that they went and got one of those two guys and did not get Bader, did not get Coulomb, and did not get France?
That's a good question.
That is a great question, because it's like if they had $10 million to work with, you can't say it's a bad usage of it. They needed defensive help, and they made their bullpen even stronger. Which this is something I've said a lot, is like, if you have an unbelievable bullpen, we saw this with Cleveland last year, it can overwhelm every other strength. I mean, you're just gonna, if you're locking down the last 3-4 innings of a game, you're gonna win 90+ games pretty much no matter what. Even if you're Cleveland, whose offense and rotation are pretty mediocre, as we saw last year. So I do see that part of it. I think a lot of it is just frustration with the fact that we're in this situation where we feel restricted to spend $10 million on a team with Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton in the best place they've been in years, with a huge opportunity, I think, to win over some fans with the new TV deal coming. It just, again, It's just the short-sightedness of the franchise, which I know we're moving out of that era. But I do think I probably would rather go with Goldschmidt. I don't know about Santana at his age, but it's a fair question. It is a
okay, honestly, I'm going to say I would not be surprised whatsoever if Ty France has a better season than Paul Goldschmidt. I don't know if I would say it would be over a 50% chance, but I don't think that it's under a 35% chance.
Yeah. I could see him having.
I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I think that the worst I would give it is a 1 out of 3 chance that Ty France has a better season than Paul Goldschmidt. At what, 38 is he now?
I mean, maybe Goldschmidt has had one bad year ever, and Ty France has had one good year ever. So I would be surprised by that.
Goldie is still 38.
Goldie's probably still in better physical shape than Ty France at 30, I would say. But
I could see him having a better season than Santana. too. I wouldn't be surprised by that. France.
I would put that over 50%.
Me too, actually.
I expect Santana to drop off. That was the right time to move on there.
Yeah, he's kind of turning into a pumpkin. But I will say overall, I think the trio of Cologne, Bader, and France, I mean, going into the offseason, the big three needs were left-hand reliever, right-handed outfielder, and first baseman. They addressed that. I think like that as a group will be more valuable than I think what Santana or Goldschmidt or even guys like maybe Mark Canha or somebody else could have provided. So I think that will be the right decision. Like I think it'll prove to be that.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that, but one thing I keep thinking about too is this front office, a lot of their biggest wins when it comes to transactions have come from off-season trades. And free agency is not the only manner in which that you can like improve your team. I almost like part of me is still waiting for one last, kind of trade to happen or something to be like, oh, okay, this is what they were working towards. They were setting their floor, then, still talking with teams, things ongoing, and then they pull the trigger and make a big trade happen. That's a way that you can kind of add to your team without necessarily just buying,
Yeah, I fully expected it. I mean, because look, I mean, first baseman, it's a position of abundance, and the Twins have all this pitching. Yeah. I mean, it did seem like they were very well positioned to make that kind of trade.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, too, I think keeping Chris Paddack and Christian Vasquez could prove to be like a very wise decision. Paddock's coming off the first year after his second Tommy John. There's reason to suspect he will rebound. Maybe he can be the guy who got 0.9 FWAR in 2022 over his first 4 starts. We don't know. And then, Vasquez, say what you will, but there is value in being able to, manage a rotation and, pitch framing and everything that he does extremely well. So I think that could prove not parting ways with those two veterans could prove to have value in itself.
My insane cope theory is that they are still working on trading Paddack. Once they get public numbers on him, once, people are able to see that he is alive, and that he is posting legitimate velocities. Apparently he has not taken much of a break this offseason. He's thrown at least a little bit throughout the offseason. And I have no idea if that's going to work for him, but I do think that means that he's going to be ready to go earlier. And so if he's, posting solid numbers and they're able to share that with teams, the silly trade, I mean, a Paddack plus prospects for Ryan Mountcastle. If you look at the Orioles rotation, it's they could use another starter for sure. And Mountcastle is a little bit redundant. So there's that type of trade that I'm it could still happen. I'm not counting on it by any means, but that's still in the back of my head. And then, France is not a guaranteed contract. If they were to bring in somebody like a Ryan Mountcastle, you can just cut Ty France and walk away not owing him any money. So again, I don't think that that's going to happen, but that is the little scenario that keeps playing out in my head.
Or even Ryan O'Hearn too. But Greg, do we have a graphic to see where Chris Paddack is right now?
Oh yes. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I got sidetracked. So, dear.
24 minutes in here, and we still have not thrown it over to our newest segment on the Twins Off Daily podcast.
I didn't know who we played.
Segment is Chris Paddack still a Twin? And as of February 17th at approximately 8:30 p.m., Chris Paddack is still a Twin. Yes, back to you, boys.
Yeah, so this is actually a resource, I believe, that is on Twins Daily now. So if you are curious if Chris Paddack is still a Twin, please get your butt on over to twinsdaily.com. And
we got to buy that URL. Is Chris Paddack still a twin.com?
Yeah, we also
I
have
believe
to
that
start...
the URL is twinsdaily.com/is-Chris-Paddack-still-a-twin.
Yeah, we also have to start... We have to start paying Vince Gilligan because that sounded ominously close to the Breaking Bad and theme music.
I cannot actually remember what the name of the song is.
Okay, all right.
It is not the Breaking Bad. I don't think it's. I I don't think it's a public domain song. However, it won't trip the YouTube plagiarism people if it's under 10 seconds. And I'm going to go out and go on a limb that the YouTube plagiarism people are not sitting through our podcast looking for copyright violations.
Our popularity is skyrocketing. Don't sell us short, Greg. I don't know.
I've always been kind of afraid that the songs we use are AI and we just didn't know it. And like, they just been like these random AI generated songs. I hope that's not the case, but I've always kind of worried about that.
Welcome to the future, Cody.
You know what? Why do you think Greg doesn't show his face?
Here.
Greg is AI himself, actually.
That's true. Yeah.
Can you imagine what that machine would have had to go through to come up with this as a persona?
What
man. Sort of trek it would have had to get dragged through?
Yep, would have destroyed the Atlantic Ocean by doing.
You know what? Artificial intelligence is no match for our own natural stupidity. So with that said, let's talk about some of the other positional battles that are coming out of spring training here. Nerd. Greg, you wrote a little bit about Harrison Bader, the Twins' newest outfielder, and where we could see him playing a good amount of the time. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so basically, and I know that like 5 minutes ago, I said I don't look that far into quotes because usually they don't mean anything. But I did kind of dig into one quote that Rocco had where basically he said that Harrison Bader is primarily going to be working out at left field along with center field. He is a career-long center fielder. He has been an incredible center fielder. I think that he's probably still a very good center fielder, but because you have Byron Buxton playing with him, if they're going to play out there together, he's going to need to go to a corner. And there's been some questions over whether will he be bouncing back and forth and left and right. He hasn't played either of them since like 2018. So there have been questions about that. And it sounds like Rocco said that to get him kind of in the groove of playing corner outfield, he's going to be playing left field. He just said specifically left field, partially because Target Field's got a big left field, and so you want kind of a fast guy out there. Makes sense. However, I was thinking about like what that actually means for the roster, and I think that hints toward like Matt Wallner and Trevor Larnach being able to hit a little bit more against lefties, because if Harrison Bader's playing left field, those are the only two guys who are going to be like right fielders on the Twins roster. The only other player on the roster outside of Bader, Wallner, and Larnach who have played any right field is Willie Castro, who played 40 games in right field for the 2022 Tigers. He's played 4 total innings as a 4 appearances as a Twin, none in the last season. And also Willie Castro is just not a good platoon hitter. Like he's barely better than Larnach and Wallner have been at this point. So I wrote something saying basically if he's going to be playing left field, I think that like all of the anti-platooners are in luck, because I think that means that one of the lefties is going to be in right field. Shout out to Herbie fan who said, "I'll believe it when I see it." We all know the ridiculous lengths Rocco will go to play matchups in platoon. But I am a believer. I'm a believer. And I want to say, like, if you're not a believer that they are actually going to give these two guys run in right field against lefties, I want to ask, how good do you feel about Willie Castro playing right field?
Nick feels really bad about it. He is shaking his head. Nick, what do you think?
I mean, if we're talking about playing Willie Castro at first base and right field, then Willie Castro has ceased to be a valuable player, basically, right? I mean, those are the only positions he has. I mean, he played a little right field. I think you mentioned maybe 4 appearances as a Twin, but those are the positions he has not played as a Twin, and that's why he's been such a valuable Twin. He can play solid defense at those positions that are, more challenging, higher on the spectrum. And he can hit enough there, but I mean, does he hit enough to be a right fielder or a first baseman? I don't know. I mean, I'm concerned about Castro's bat, honestly, coming off the second half of last year, and the fact that just to have a 330 on base last year, you had to have this historic HBP total. So I think Castro can be fine, maybe like a 90 OPS plus guy, but I'm not necessarily expecting him to be an above average hitter this year.
Fair enough. Cody, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I think France mitigates that threat because, him being in first base, Castro can stay in his traditional role because Paul DeYoung's not here. We didn't sign a backup shortstop. So I don't think Castro is going to really get much time in right field. I know Greg noted the platoon splits, like he's not really going to be much better against than Larnick or Wallner in that role. So also I think Austin Martin might have a pretty big role in the team this year. So maybe he might get some time in right field as a right-handed bat. But yeah,
Are you old enough to remember Ben Revere?
Yeah, I was watching when Revere.
Do you remember him playing right field?
Was that when Gomez was in center?
Yeah.
Or Span?
Left.
Willingham?
I feel like I don't remember Ben Revere playing that much right field. Maybe call me
he
crazy.
Did
I
play
remember
right
him in
field.
center a lot.
Played there a little.
Yeah, he did defer to somebody. I can't remember who it was, but I feel like if we see Austin Martin out in right field, I feel like we're going to see kind of the second coming of Ben Revere right fielder, where guys are just going to be running at will. Like Austin Martin's arm is so shot at this point in his life.
I also think Bader could also just play right field too. I don't think it's not going to happen. Like there still is opportunity that could happen, right?
Could be.
But why would they be working him out in left field only if they just turned around and put him in right?
Hasn't he played much more innings at right field in his career than left field?
No, it's negligible.
Okay.
Clearly, anybody can play right field. You can ask Miguel Sano.
Or Joe Mauer.
Or Joe Mauer, yeah, for what, one game? Boy. Okay, so we talked about a little bit. Let's talk about some of the other kind of battles, maybe roster battles that are maybe shaping up in the early parts of spring here. One guy that I feel like has been overlooked a little bit is Mr. Brooks Lee. I think there's still some high hopes for him. I mean, if you had asked this time last year, he was getting a ton of play. Rocco was playing him so much in the spring. He was, still ascending in the prospect ranks, you got to think. And now that he's graduated from them, it kind of feels like he's been forgotten a little bit. Cody, you've recently had something about Brooks Lee, didn't you, that you posted up at Twins Daily?
Yeah, so we're doing a series at Twins Daily, I think this week, called Make or Break, and we're looking at players who are kind of going to make or break the Twins' chances of making the postseason this year. And I wrote about Brooks Lee. When you look at second base, last year it was a revolving door there. I know Julian entered the season as the expected starter. He slumped. Kyle Farmer did really nothing last year. Castro was good there, but he's a utility player. He needs to be elsewhere. So much of his value is lost if he's stuck in one position. So going into this season, it looks like Brooks Lee is going to be the first guy to get the chance to claim a starting job. I'm not totally against it. I think long term he still has a lot of promise, and I still am excited about him. Last year's late season slump was really concerning. I think he had a sub 70 WRC plus from both sides of the plate last season. That's not going to work in Major League Baseball whatsoever. His defense is still really good. He has really good range. He has a great arm for second base, but given the position, you have Lee, Julian, Castro, Martin, Keishel, we'll see when he comes up. Peyton Eels is always the underdog guy who people are excited about. I think Lee could blossom into like the guy that we expect him to this year. I know John's down in Fort Myers, talking to players and getting stuff for us to report. And Lee mentioned that he's working on his getting his barrel more into the zone from both sides of the plate so he can make better contact when he does. He basically said that he thinks like he's always going to make contact, but he wants to make better contact. And I think that's smart. I know last year he struggled against the fastball too, which is the first time that's happened in his career. So if Lee can make these adjustments, which are, I don't think any adjustments are easy, but these ones, are doable more than others. It's just kind of fixing your swing path and, getting more ahead of fastballs. So I think he could do it. I'm optimistic about Lee, and I think the Twins would be wise to give him a chance at second base to start the year. Given their postseason aspirations, their safety net can only be like so deep with him, because if he's struggling, eventually you got to move on to somebody else. But I think they should give Lee a pretty long leash at second, given that he's a switch hitter and he is very good defensively. So there still will be value there, even if he struggles at the plate.
Well said. Well said. I think that'll be very interesting to keep track of throughout spring here. Before we move on to our next segment, any non-roster invitees that are, you guys are maybe going to keep an extra eye on? Some guys who not guaranteed a spot with the team, but could impress in the spring. Let's see, Nick, do you have anybody that comes to mind for you?
I mean, he's not like a non-roster minor league signing, but he is in camp as a non-roster player. And Cody just mentioned him. Keishel is who I'm going to be really keeping an eye on, because I do think this team has just big question marks in the infield. On the Brooks Lee topic, it's like his season was very concerning to me last year. Like, I don't know if people are talking enough about it, because what to me was concerning was that the strengths that we expected from him, the things that are touted about him, were on display. He took really good at bats. He put the ball in play, good walk rate. But he just did not hit the ball hard at all. Like, just no. I mean, he was hitting with like Christian Vasquez type authority. Yeah. It's easy to say things like, oh, I'm just going to hit the ball harder when I swing, but that's not very easy to do. And that was always kind of the question mark about him. But I do think his defense is going to be his saving grace, because do the Twins trust any of their infielders defensively at all outside of Correa? I don't think so. They do trust Lee. They trust him to play all over the field. So, but I think Keishel is a guy who can bring his bat, has some versatility. If he impresses in spring training, I don't think he's going to make the roster, but he could be up very quick.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. Greg, anybody catching your eye, or that you hope will catch your eye throughout spring here?
Because I'm a Twins fan and can never forget the ones who got away, I am going to be watching Huascar Ynoa quite closely.
That's what I had.
I don't. It's like, I mean, I don't know. It's so kind of mystifying. Like, he's been out of baseball essentially for the last like almost 3 years, and so it's like, oh man, he could be anything. He could be that guy again. He probably isn't. The Braves probably wouldn't have let him go if they had any faith at all that he could be that guy again. That he was in 2021. I mean, it's been a long time since Huascar Ynoa has impressed anybody, but I am keeping a very close eye on him. I would love for him to show back up for the Twins, and the sicko in me wants him to also like blow a game so that everyone can be, this is the guy who you've been complaining they let go for free.
Bring back Jaime Garcia.
Yes, I'm here for the discourse, but I also like, there's a little bit of mystery there, and I would love to know what's behind door number 2.
Oh, I love a good homecoming. So for those of you who don't remember, Huascar Ynoa, the Twins traded him to the Atlanta Braves for Jaime Garcia, and who they started for 1 game and then immediately traded him as well to the New York Yankees, right? And that got
for Zach Littell and Dietrich Enns. Is that the trade?
Yes.
So Huascar Ynoa got traded for Zach Littell, and then
yeah. So we all love a good homecoming. Hopefully, Huascar has a good homecoming too.
He had a very good 2021 in the Braves rotation as a 23-year-old, and then he punched the wall and got injured, and then he's had arm problems basically ever since.
Turns out you shouldn't punch walls. Who would have thunk it?
I had a coach once tell me never punch anything that can't punch back, and I don't know if there's been any better advice I've ever gotten. I stopped doing it.
That's pretty good. I'm glad. Okay, well, I think we got things pretty good there for spring storylines. Let's move on to our next segment, which is everybody's favorite. It is Greg's Gripes. Okay, so Greg's Gripes. Greg always has something bothering him, grinding his gears. This is his chance to get it off his chest. Greg, the floor is yours.
Okay, so it was Saturday Night Live's 50th anniversary this weekend. And I've got to say, I don't know, on like the scale of not being a fan to being a fan of Saturday Night Live, I'm probably closer to being a fan than not being a fan. I enjoy it. But I'm getting a little tired of like the whole take, Saturday Night Live hasn't been good since, the trope is like, it hasn't been good since I was 14, right. And everybody kind of holds that opinion. it's not a great show. Like, if you want to just like talk on the artistic merits and the entertainment value of Saturday Night Live, it's not a great show. It never has been. It's not set up for success. You've got to come up with what is it, like 2 hours worth of skits every single week and then perform it live. It's never going to be that great. I'm really sick and tired of people complaining about, oh, it's just Saturday night. I don't know exactly the word for it, but like there's a certain type of take or complaint where it's like, I don't think that you have like thought that. I think that you heard somebody else say it. You saw them get like a positive affirmation for saying it, and then you just kind of adopted it yourself. I don't know, like the plumbers comment about, like, you know, if somebody says like I don't know, Wilt Chamberlain played against plumbers or whatever. It's like, no, you saw somebody else say that, people responded to it positively, and now you've just kind of taken that as your own thought. People do the same thing with Saturday Night Live, and I don't know, it's not like a conscious thought that people have. It's just, and it's okay. It's okay that it's not great. It never has been great. It's not set up to be great, but Saturday Night Live exists basically to help actors and writers basically get their first gig in the show business, basically. And it's a great developmental tool. You kind of have the same thing going on right now with The Simpsons, where The Simpsons is not all of that great at this point, but it's a great tool for like aspiring writers to get some real writing experience. And I'm okay with, you know, Saturday Night Live going on forever. I will say that it did take a turn down when Amy Poehler and Tina Fey and Cecily Strong, when each of them left, because, oh my goodness, the most beautiful women in the world. I will never not have a crush on those three women.
Those are very different eras.
I mean, it's two different eras. One was the mid 2000s and the other was 2020-ish.
Well, yeah, but between then you had Bill Hader and Jason Sudeikis and Kristen Wiig and Andy Samberg and all those guys, and they were great. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, those. I won't comment on Kristen Wiig, but I will say that the rest of them are not gorgeous women who make me laugh.
I will say too, Cody, it sounds like maybe that was the cast when you were 14. Is there anything to that? I don't know.
The cast when I was 14 was like Beck Bennett and Kyle Mooney and like those guys.
Yes, I forgot you're a baby, Comrade Cody.
Yeah.
Okay, well, a nice little SNL gripe. Anything else you want to get off your chest there, Greg?
Can I say, Nick, you're the boss here. Can I complete the line that starts with Jane on, you know, the Dan Aykroyd line?
Are you gonna call me that?
Just as long as you don't do any Chevy Chase stuff, I think you'll be okay here.
Cody, you ignorant slut!
Oh, geez.
That's all I wanted to say.
There goes our advertisers.
Yeah,
man.
Great. Now Lou is going to have to go in and censor it and make the edits.
You're going to have to make an apology on episode.
Excuse me. I'm the one who edits these things.
Yeah.
I'm not editing myself.
Yeah. No. We know that. We know that. Okay, well, that was a good one. Greg, thank you very much for the gripes. As always, let's boogie on down and play an edition of The Closer. All right, we are going to try something new here. This is a new game called Call Your Shot, and it is a prediction-based game that I don't believe anybody else, surely nobody in the market is playing. We are going to go person by person here, and we are going to give our Twins or Twins Daily related predictions for the season, and we will keep a running tally of these predictions. We hope to get a few from different guests throughout the season. We'll keep track of who gets correct predictions down, and we'll have a scoreboard there. So sorry about that, Cody. I believe you'll be at the bottom of that most of the time.
Wait, who's keeping track of this? Lou, are you writing this down?
Yeah, sure. Well, don't say that word. I'm typing it up. Putting
this up. Yeah.
Yeah. Putting this up. So I'm going to start. I'm going to call my shot here. My first prediction is the Twins will not open the season with a 5-man rotation. They will not have 5 different starters for the first 5 games of the season. Okay.
Can I ask for some specificity? Do you mean that they will have a 6-man rotation? Do you mean that they will have a 4-man rotation?
Maybe. I'm just saying
if they have a 4-man rotation, does that mean that they will only roster 4 starting pitchers? Or if they roster 5 starting pitchers and say Chris Paddock pitches out of the bullpen, does that count?
You don't need to answer that question, Lou.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to go into those specifics. I'm going to say they're going to have, it's not going to be starter 1, starter 2, starter 3, starter 4, starter 5, then back to starter 1. It's going to be either a 6-man rotation or, like you said, maybe a 4-man rotation, and they go back to the first starter after that. Anyway, let's go next up. Nick, let's go with your first prediction here. What's the shot you're calling?
I will say that the Minnesota Twins, at the trade deadline, under a new owner looking to make a big statement, will make the biggest, boldest trade deadline acquisition in franchise history.
Whoa.
Bigger than Tyler Mahle?
I know, the bar is so high.
Okay.
Bigger than Shannon Stewart?
Okay. That's a pretty good one. I'm sure I feel like this is going to be one where you know it when you see it. You know what I mean? Like it's either in the conversation or it's not. Okay. Cody, let's go with Potter. Let's go with your first call here.
All right. Type this up. I think Joe Ryan will get 2 or more first place AL Cy Young award votes and 10 or more second place votes.
Wow. Okay. So big year from Joe Ryan. Type this up. You love typing things up. All right. Greg, let's go with yours.
I'm going to go with there are going to be at least 5 Twins who throw 100 miles an hour this season.
5 Twins who throw 100 miles per hour.
Yeah. 5 Twins who hit triple digits on the radar gun.
Okay. All right. That's a pretty good one.
Will Yohan Duran be one of them?
Not
he already has. He already has.
Not when he gets traded to Baltimore. Ryan Mountcastle.
Oh God, that put a bad taste in my mouth. All right. My next call here. Emmanuel Rodriguez will start more games in center field for the Minnesota Twins than Harrison Bader this season.
Okay.
All right. That's a longer shot for me. Oh. I'm aiming for the fences with that one a little bit. Nick, let's go with your next one.
Let's see. I will say, I don't know if this is a terribly bold prediction, but I'm going to say that Trevor Larnach finishes top 3 on the team in wins above replacement.
Oh, okay. That'd be fun.
People aren't talking enough about Trevor Larnach. That guy just looked so good last year. And if he keeps making contact at that rate, he's going to be a monster.
That'd be huge. And, Sherry was on our podcast and maybe like our 5th ever episode. It was like May 20th or something. And Trevor Larnach was like having a pretty good season. Like he had a pretty good season last year overall. Just, I think you take that from him. She was ready to cut him. She was ready to release him and shoot him to the moon. So she is just grinding. I know that she is just gritting her teeth.
He was in the catapult right next to that rock head.
Yep, exactly. Okay, Cody, let's go with your next call here.
Okay. Let's go with the Twins bullpen will generate more than 7 F4.
Okay.
It's a collective.
And I think that Fangraphs projected them to have somewhere around 6.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
With Colomb, it's more. But
yeah. That's good. Okay. That's pretty big.
Was Greg, Cleveland that to that number last year?
What was it?
Yeah. So was Cleveland the only team to reach that number last year?
That would sound right.
Yeah.
They had a monster bullpen.
That's good. Yeah.
Greg, you're up, my friend.
Somebody on the Twins 40-man roster will not be on the 40-man roster by the end of spring training. So, and not for injury. They will cut somebody, which is going to hurt. They will send Iverson Castellano back to Philadelphia, or they will trade somebody.
All right. I like that.
I'm trying to go for a layup, dude.
Yeah,
that
was a layup.
Well, Castellanos not going to make the team. Whoa, you're way out there, man.
That was bunting.
He will. I started up an OOTP
I don't think so.
Season, and he's doing great.
Okay, that's good.
Greg just squared up a bunt with three guys on the right side of second base in the defense there. So, okay, my last call here. My next article for Twins Daily will get at least 7 laughing emoji reactions on the Twins Daily Facebook post for it. So at least 7 laughing emojis on my next article for Twins Daily on Facebook. That's my last call.
Will they be justified, Lou? Like, will they make sense?
Have you already written it? Do you know it's a banger, or are you just assuming it's going to be?
I don't have anything written.
Okay.
I don't have anything in the works, but no matter what I do, this could be my work of art. This could be my my absolute masterpiece, and it will get some laughing.
Yeah, we weren't talking about it just for fun. We were just talking about Lou has a take.
Yeah.
No, that like that. No,
I know what you mean, Greg. That's funny.
Never mind.
All right, last calls here. Nick, what do you got?
I will go Ryan Jeffers 30+ home runs. I think he'll be healthy. He'll bounce back. He'll get a majority of the playing time. And boy, would that be huge for this team. You know, we talk about how this offense can improve and turn it around. You got a catcher popping 30 home runs. That goes a long way.
I think I saw a tweet that said he had back-to-back shots in his first round of BP the other day. One went 418, one went 425 or something like that. So hopefully he keeps that going. I
got my scouts on the scene. They're informing my takes.
There we go. Yeah. Take that, Mitch Garver. Okay. Cody, your last call here.
What's it if I make 2 bets like together, is that a parlay?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna do a parlay. I don't bet, as you can tell. Okay. So the first one, these are both going to happen. Okay. Ty Vance is going to hit 20 or more home runs. That's number 1. And then number 2, David Festa is going to make 20 or more starts, have a sub 4 ERA and a sub 3.5 FIP.
All right. Okay. All right.
He just had to fire them all off.
Yeah.
They're too good.
I had 2 of them. I was excited about both of them. They're going to happen at the same. They're both going to happen. Yeah. So they have to both hit.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good, Cody. Greg, your last call here. Please no more parlays.
Well, I got an or.
Okay, fine.
Which is not a parlay. But there will, by the end of the season, there will either be another Matt or another Cody writing at Twins Daily.
Another one.
There are currently 5 Matts and 3 Codys. That's like a quarter of the people who get to write over there are Matts and Codys. I think that there will be at least one more Matt or Cody by the end of the season.
Yeah, that's good. That's any Lewis's. Also, should I start going by Lewis Hennessy? Is that like we haven't talked about that? Louis Varland, it sounds like is going to start going by Louis Varland. So will there be another Lewis? Only time will tell.
You go, Lewis. He'll start going Sweet Lou Varland.
Yeah, I mean, I call him Sweet Lou Varland anyway, but okay, well, this was pretty fun. We will see if any of these actually hit for Cody, if any of his 17 hits. But I think this will be fun. I'm glad we typed these up, so this will be fun to keep track of. But let's wrap this show up here. Let's talk about our walk-off question. It's President's Day. Which U.S. president, real or fictional, do you think would be a good baseball player? I will start. I just saw the new Captain America Brave New World. Very mid. I would give it like a 40 grade on the 20 to 80 scale. But one of the bright spots was Harrison Ford as the president, and he turns into the Red Hulk. I'm not giving anything away. That's in the trailers there. So I'm going to say President Red Hulk would be a good baseball player. Greg, let's go with you. Any fictional or real U.S. presidents that you think would be a good baseball player?
I might need to bleep this out, but have you seen the spray chart on JFK?
Fuck. Ooh, too soon. That's tough. That is very tough. I'm gonna have to tap dance here because our other contestants are at a loss for words over that one.
I mean, he really sprays it.
That was horrible, but it's good.
All over.
Everybody, Greg's last episode. Congratulations. His retirement episode. All right. I don't know how you're gonna top it. Nick, what do you got?
I'm going to go with good old Abraham Lincoln. Tall, probably a good pitcher, probably a good extension, and also 4 score. If you score 4 times in a baseball game, man, you're going to win a lot of games.
Damn, I thought you were going to make the exact same joke for Abraham Lincoln.
I have class.
Yes, thank you. Woof. Cody, speaking of class, you are the class of this organization here. What do you got?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, it's good that Trump released the files on JFK because now we get the StatCast metrics on JFK's spray chart. So that's good. Regardless, I heard that Lyndon Johnson's related to Walter.
There we go.
I read that online in the QAnon boards I'm in. So
oh man. All right. I'm not asking any more president related questions ever again. You know what? Thank you very much for joining us on the Twins Off Daily podcast tonight. On behalf of Greg and Cody and Nick, I'm Sweet Lou Hennessy. Thank you so much for joining us. Please tell your friends. Please keep listening to us here. Let's keep growing this fun little project we got going. And as always, everybody, stay sweet.
Thanks, everyone. Great job.